What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Mint City Soccer Show. I am Corey Insco, hosting, which means someone else isn't here. You have to guess who that person might be. No, I'm here with David Gussler in his beautiful kit and new hat and bald head, which we'll get to how he made his head bald later. How you doing, David?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Yeah, it's like summer vacation for the Mint City Soccer Show. It's like every week we have a new substitute coming in, and substitute teacher. Last week we had Donnie, and now Swift isn't here this week, and I think I wasn't there the week before that. So we're just a bunch of crazy busy dudes right now.
Someone's got to hold it down over here, and somehow that person is me. But I'm sure I'll have my moment very soon. Just as a side note, so summer vacation, when you have a wife who's a teacher and two kids in school, it's very hard to stay motivated during the summer because like you get up for work and they do not, and they just stay sleeping, and while you have to get up and get out of your cozy bed, and it's very hard. So happy summer, everybody.
That doesn't sound very fun, sir.
Anyway,
fun for them. Yeah.
No, yeah. Anyway, so we have no Matt Swift this week. That's okay. We'll have him back hopefully next week, or someone else will be missing. So we'll see. But we had a lot to talk about this week. So we wanted to make sure we dove into all of this action from the week that was. Some decent, some bad, some interesting, as how I'm going to categorize the three main things we're going to talk about here. So let's go ahead and dive into it. First thing, it's another week where we had two matches this week, and then we have a third one coming up this weekend. So another really busy week for the team. So let's jump all the way back to Saturday, which feels like a long time ago, and talk a little bit about the Philadelphia Union, who came to town on Saturday. A 0-0 home draw, which is starting to sound very familiar at that point. That was the second one in a row, but the fifth game without a loss, the fifth game without a goal scored on us, a streak that ended very sadly on Wednesday night, but we'll get to that later. But no, let's think back to that Saturday game. I'll throw it over to you, David, real quick for kind of your initial takeaways from that. We're not going to do our normal breakdown. We go first half, second half, and doing all that because we have too much to talk about. But kind of overall impressions from that 0-0 draw with Philadelphia back on Saturday.
So I know we had our friend Jose on the show. So shout out, Jose. Thanks again for kind of being our match preview and talking about Philadelphia. And what was interesting was I remember we were talking about Philadelphia scored a lot of goals, and Charlotte has not let in a lot of goals. And so we were like, okay, well, it's either going to go one way or the other. And then what happens? There's no goals whatsoever in this game. So I was at the game, Corey. It was a lot of fun. It was hot, man. It was like
it was a warm one.
It was pretty nasty. It did not want me to look forward to the July games. But no, I mean, I thought we played pretty well overall for that game. Charlotte defensively, again, continues to be on an elite level for MLS this season. And Kalina played lights out, really had a good overall performance from the team. But what we've noticed, I think, in this month, as the team has, branded it as quote unquote mayhem for this month with how many games that they had at home in May, Charlotte's theme of this is that we also haven't really scored any goals during this stretch. We'll talk about Red Bulls here in a little bit, but Philadelphia game, we walked away with that, had no goals in that performance there. And that's become kind of a theme where we have an elite level defense and unfortunately a very, very bad attacking team right now. I mean, Corey, it was, for me, I thought I was okay with walking away with the draw. I would have loved to have 3 points in that situation, but for how many games we've had in May, I feel like we've had like 6 games in May or 5 games in May.
6.
6 games, 4 of which I think were at home, and to basically still be in the driver's seat, be in the top half of the league. I think we were 6th or 7th place at the end of Saturday night. And, going into the week ahead, I was like, okay, I feel pretty good. Like Philadelphia's a quality team. They have some good players on that side of the field. Absolutely. And for us to walk away with the draw, I felt pretty good.
Yeah, no, totally the same. Just looking at sheer results, the draw against Philadelphia, I am perfectly happy with that as a result. It's a team that comes and scores a lot of goals, like you said, and we held them. And then even going back farther, like I don't want to discount, the goal scoring has been an issue. And we're going to talk about that, but like The first 3 games of May were all wins. Not a lot of goals scored in them. I mean, 4 total in 3 matches, but like we get through the first 5 of the 6 matches in May, and it's 3 wins and 2 draws. I will, if you tell me that at the end of April, I'll take that all day. Now there are still issues that we're going to talk about going from that, but like let's not lose sight of the fact that like that's a pretty solid month of, especially a lot of home matches where you need to score points in those home matches when you have those opportunities, and you're able to do that while also stealing an away win in the middle of that too at Chicago. So like there's a lot of really good to take away from that. And then again, yeah, just on paper, you know, drawing Philadelphia is not a bad thing. But to the point we were talking about with the offense, it's just another situation where, especially in that match, we dominated possession. Like, I don't know. I didn't go back and look at stats, but like, I don't know if I've ever seen the number be that lopsided in the stadium looking at it. Like, we were regularly at like 70%, you know, high 60s, like for most of the match. We dominated possession. We did a really nice job, just from my memory, of working the ball from the defense through the midfield. But once they got to that final third, there was nothing. There was just no creativity. It was slow. By the time they decided what they wanted to do, the defense had recovered and gotten back. I mean, there was just nothing. And so I thought that was just really frustrating. There was just there were very few real chances. I think they had 14 shots, but like no real high quality chances that I remember for most of the match. So it was just too slow. Clearly the attackers didn't really have a plan when they got to that part of the field of what they wanted to do, or they all weren't on the same page or whatever that was. I did feel like it got better when Abada came in. Like I feel like I could tell a difference immediately when he came in, and we had some more better chances toward the end of the match there when he was up and just making those driving runs that I love to see, and we're hopefully going to see many, many more of. So you could just tell an immediate shift then, but still there just wasn't enough in that. And I get that, you know, we're trying to ease him back in. So only played like 10 or 15 minutes that match. So I get that. That totally makes sense. But just seeing him come in, it's like, okay, that's the kind of spark we need. That's what we need to start building on the attack to have some opportunities. Cause before he came in, I mean, there was just nothing really to get excited about from a goal scoring perspective. But again, you can't knock I mean, the defense is playing, we'll talk about New York in a minute, but overall the defense has just been incredible. And I was talking to somebody recently about how right now I'm okay with this, where we're at, right? Because we know that the attack is the weakest part of our roster. If you look at who we're putting out there, not to knock them, but they're very young. They're like recent super draft picks, you know, like, or whatever they are. There's not like a ton of experienced quality up there except for Abada. But he wasn't playing much in this Philadelphia Union match I'm talking about. So there's just not much there. So it makes sense that we're not scoring a lot of goals. So as long as we're building a foundation and then knowing that we're going to go into the summer and we better hopefully make some moves to address this. Then it's like we're starting from a good defensive foundation, and if we can keep playing defensively like that, and then also we add a goal scorer or two, holy cow, let's roll. And we're already, like you said, we're in 7th place. We're in a playoff spot. We're right there in the mix of it coming into the summer. So like I'm not feeling great about where we are from an offensive standpoint, but like I'm also, you know, kind of rationally looking at it, being like things are okay. I'm not too worried about where we're going with this.
Well, it's funny too, because if you asked us 5 months ago, if we were 6th or 7th place, being competitive, like winning at home, we would have been like, hell yeah, that's great. Like we're rebuilding right now, new coach, like sure. But here we are being selfish fans, and we're like, hey, we're gonna win the league, you know. But that's neither here nor there. So the other thing that stood out to right, the other thing that stood out was the post game conference with Dean Smith after the Philadelphia game, because like you said, I remember looking up at I was banging on the drums for like the entire game. I remember looking up and it's like 78% like possession for Charlotte, and it's like 18, 19, 20% for Philadelphia. I'm like, what? The last time we did that was with Miguel, and it did not look as pretty because all we were doing was passing it back and forth between the left back, the center back, the right back, the center back, the left back, Kalina. That was Miguel. But that's the reason why we had possession so high. With Dean, we haven't really seen such a lopsided possession type style of play with him. Like it's been more counter, been 50-60%, possession between the wins and the losses and draws. But this was the first game where we were like, ooh, like what's different this game? And to build on that same foundation, we've got younger guys coming in. Even though we didn't score in that game, the fact that they were able to be competitive, play against a team that's historically been really good with, quality in Philadelphia, it kind of sucked we couldn't score on their backup keeper, but it is what it is. But I felt overall pretty good from a vibe perspective after leaving Saturday night.
Yeah, and I mean, I assume that Philadelphia was obviously that was part of their game plan, was to just let us hold the ball and didn't get us on the counter, which they nearly did a couple times. And goodness, I don't know what Clean is on right now, but I need some of it because he is just out of his mind the way he's playing right now, and has saved us many, many times.
MLS All-Star quality. Yeah.
Sure, I mean, he's just some of the saves he's making. I don't know how he's doing it. So yeah, there are definitely some moments where we almost got caught on that counter. So it was clearly kind of what Philadelphia planned to do. But yeah, I mean, it was just interesting to see. And again, like, it can't be too mad at the result. It was just frustrating watching the lack of offensive creativity and some of that. I did want to say, because you were talking about banging on the drums. So I think I mentioned this already on a earlier show, that I haven't been able to go to many matches in this mayhem. That's so hard to say. Mayhem. Because of various things. So this was actually, the Philadelphia match was the first match I'd been to since the April match where we lost to Minnesota. So my wife got to go to one, but then we gave tickets away, and so we just could never go. And I know somebody mentioned this about the previous match, I guess the Galaxy match, that the supporter section sounded the loudest it's been. And I have to echo that. Again, so I sit on I've said this before, but anybody who hasn't heard it, I sit on the far opposite end of the supporter section, behind the other goal in the corner. So I'm basically as far away as you can get from it. It was loud. Some of the early songs and chants, I'm not used to hearing it that clearly. And I was like, oh, this is cool. So I really just props to y'all, all the work you're doing over there. It's paying off. And I even started hearing, not loud, it's going to take a little bit, but I heard a few pockets of people who knew some of the songs and chants. You kind of hear them quietly singing it, which usually used to be just me. But there's some, so I think we're starting to see it spread a little bit, which is cool. And even something simple like doing the Charlotte FC chant for corners and stuff like that. I think before this, I don't know if people could actually hear what y'all are doing over there. This time, clearly they could, and it started to spread around. Now, was it in time? No, not at all. But that's fine. So anyway, it was a good thing to see. And I wanted to, in relation to that too, is, again, I haven't been to so many matches I would like to this season, but that felt like one of the best crowds as far as just energy and if they had scored a goal in that match, people would have, that place would have erupted. And I felt like the previous couple matches I'd been to didn't have that same energy. So I don't know what it was about Saturday night, but it felt like the place was rocking. It was a pretty full crowd, good energy, lots of people standing up in those final minutes as we were trying to get a goal there, with some pretty good chances toward the end. I don't want to discount that. We did have some nice chances toward the end there off some of the corners and stuff like that. The place would have blown up. But yeah, it was just kind of good to see oh, here's that energy again. There's that home field advantage that we can have. That maybe I hadn't seen in a match or two. So it was really fun. So hats off to all y'all over doing that. Yeah.
It's crazy what happens when you don't have a music festival going on, thunder and lightning storms, Carolina Hurricanes playoff games, Coca-Cola 600, Memorial Day weekend. Tons of variables in the month of May, which I know you kind of front loaded it, obviously, because with Panthers and things later in the fall, that's going to interrupt the games. But no, I'll definitely echo that sentiment. Just being in the supporter section, it's been a different vibe, different energy the past 2 weeks. It's been really nice to actually hear people singing and chanting and getting into it. And like you said, on those corners, doing that Charlotte FC, the dun dun Charlotte, yeah, you can definitely tell people are off when you see the hands clap.
Oh yeah, it's chaos. Yeah,
it's there's no rhythm happening in BOA, but that's okay. But it's awesome still to see that you're sitting there in the supporter section, and it's really cool because you can see it start to spread, and all of a sudden you're oh, it's getting center field, and all of a sudden people are actually starting to stand and do it. Energy was great, and it's a shame we couldn't score a goal because it would have blew the top off for sure.
Yeah. It was a good crowd. I will say, probably in my area, part of the energy came from the fact that kudos to Philadelphia because they brought a small but mighty away crowd. It was like only like 2 or 3 rows. It was not very big,
Yeah.
but they were loud, and
Were
it
they?
was
Okay.
they were clearly and they're doing it in a very good way. They were not. They were having fun. They weren't being mean or anything like that. So I don't mean this is a negative thing, but they were doing a good job of like getting under people's skin around them. So there was a little bit of back and forth, but all in good fun. They had a good group up there.
I did see a
that
video.
helps.
I saw a video that I'll have to send you because you may have heard it because you're over on that side, where it was a Philadelphia fan said that he made the beer guy's night because like when the guy was like pouring the beer and he's like, he poured a beer and he's like chanting the guy while he's pouring the beer there. So I'm like, oh yeah, that's awesome. So
that was actually
kudos.
that was pretty amazing. Yeah, they had one of the beer vendors up there, and yeah, they would do a couple of different things. It took me a while to figure out what they were doing because they would just start cheering, like nothing was happening. Like, it was just a weird situation. They were cheering, like, what is going on? So finally, look back and watch it. They would do it when he sold a beer, and like so they would sit there and go, oh, as he was like doing the checkout on his little like handheld payment thing, and then once he paid it and he went like this to the fans, they'd be like. They'd start cheering and start chanting, he sold a beer. So yeah, they were having fun. They were a good group. So good job to them. But yeah, I think that whenever there's a good rowdy away crowd, it makes my section get a little more rowdy, which is always fun as long as it stays civil and fun. But
yeah, I need you to make sure Jeremy and Johnny next time they're over there with you start making some noise with you at the same time. It's good.
There you go. There you go. All right. Anything else on the Union match before we jump into the midweek match?
Nothing too much. I would just say like it. I really like Philadelphia. Like I'm not a huge Philadelphia sports fan in general, but if Charlotte's ever eliminated in the East and Philadelphia's still there, they're probably my second kind of backup team. Just I think that's because of Jose's kind of time on the show here a little bit, but
yeah,
and just because they build it through their youth and their academy system, they tend to try to do internally, which is great, but it also is a pain, I'm sure, as a fan.
Yeah, I'm typically very anti-Philadelphia sports because most of their sports and fans I just can't get behind. But they're the Union are the exception. Yeah. I don't know if they're my second team, but in the East, but they are an exception to the rule of most Philadelphia teams. So that's nice. I'd rather say too, my friend at church who I talk to about the podcast all the time, who you met his son, he mentioned last Sunday when I saw him, he was like, that Philadelphia guy you had on, he's awesome. Y'all need to have him more. I was like, yeah, Jose is great. I'm really glad you like him. So great. He got the stamp of approval, so that's good. So he really enjoyed that. But
I'm trying to get Jose to move down to North Carolina, so this can be his secondary market. So Jose, if you're listening, be sure you come back down here, buddy. It'll be good.
Oh man. All right, so let's move into the midweek match, which we maybe dive into a little bit deeper if we want to here. Yep. So obviously the result was not a great one. It was a 3-1 loss up at Red Bulls. In my notes here, I have screw New Jersey. Just throwing out there.
Sounds about right.
Not necessarily a state. Like if you're from New Jersey, I'm not trying to knock that, but like that stadium, something I don't want to go back there very often. The team, it's not a great, not good vibes there. So 3-1. There's a lot in this match to talk about. Maybe we will dive a little bit deeper into this one if you want to. Sure. What were kind of your initial thoughts when you saw the lineup? Any kind of pregame stuff you saw? What did you kind of feel like heading into this match?
So I was actually shocked to see Ben Bender being on the bench because I know he just is starting to get minutes. So that was kind of shocking for me, just again from a fitness perspective. I was also kind of, I don't want to say like shocked, but I guess pleasantly surprised that Abada started this game. I was still under the mindset that he would be, gradually brought in. I mean, hell, he only played 10, 15 minutes. Right. 3 days before. Yeah. And then we're like, hey, we're going to throw you in here and start. And ended up playing like 70 minutes straight. But, I was kind of shocked by that. I was glad because, I mean, we've just been anemic in our attack lately. So we desperately needed that. Yeah. On paper, it seemed like a good matchup. Diani, Brandt, Westwood in the middle there. You had Vargas and Abada on the wings and Patrick up top. And then, Pedro's played pretty well as a left back for us, while Yurdi's been been out hurt for a little while. I'm not sure time frame wise, but hopefully he's back by this weekend or the weekend after that for the crown. But you know, I would say on paper the matchup seemed like what I would have picked if I had all things considered. You know, Brecht and Scott on the bench could have been super subs and coming off the bench from that point of view. And you know, on paper it seemed like it was fine, but obviously, when they get into the game, it did not go as well as we wanted to. But I mean, the defense has been playing sound. Kalina's been playing lights out. So I thought we went in this game, even though I think Red Bull was fourth before heading into this game. We were seventh. We had the opportunity to jump up to fourth if we won this game. So it was disappointing that net didn't work out how we should have. But on paper, I thought we matched up pretty well until that first whistle blew.
until the game actually started. No, I was also surprised about it because he played so little in the match before. Because it's a busy week, I thought they might ease him in a little bit more. But I was happy to see him out there because again, I think we just play very differently with him out there, and so I was excited to see that. But it was making me a little nervous, especially as the weather got worse. To have someone like that out there who's coming off that kind of injury, that made me a little nervous. So I'm glad they took him off when they did. That made a lot of sense. But it was good to see him out there and seeing some of the things he can do. And yeah, it's tough. So like let's talk about the first half. I can kind of start talking generally about it, and then you dig into anything you want to.
Sure.
But
yeah,
I mean, I thought overall we played a really good first half. Overall, with the always caveat of we can't score, but it was a different kind of we can't score, which we'll talk about in a second. But I thought like we played well. I thought we played better than Red Bull that first half. And like you said, Red Bull's a very good team playing at home. Like this was not going to be an easy one. And I felt really good about the way we started the match. And then again, we didn't score, but I felt like it was a different kind of not scoring, especially in the first half. It was like, you know, when we were talking about the Philadelphia match, it was like we get to that final third and have no idea what to do. This time we would get to that final third, we do some good things, get into a really good position, and then just botch either the shot or the final pass or that last second decision making wasn't there. So it was a different kind of like, what are we doing? I mean, because I think, you know, my memory with games, so correct me on anything I say wrong, please. Because I have not rewatched it since Wednesday, because why would I do that to myself? But like, was it Patrick was off the post really early on in the match after a really nice run and everything in there. Abada also had a really good chance that I feel like was straight to the keeper. There were good chances that we actually took, but the shot wasn't there. And so it was still frustrating that we couldn't score. But again, you saw the difference. I think I'm not gonna put it all on him, but I think a lot of him is having someone like Abada on there who can help create some of that in the final third. That we were getting closer to the goal, but it was still that last pass, that last shot just isn't there. And against a good team, if you don't take those opportunities, I mean, we have an amazing defense. They're really, really strong, but like they can't. You start putting a lot of pressure on the defense if you just can't score. They have to be perfect. And for 5 games, they were perfect basically because they didn't give up a goal. And eventually, it had to break at some point. And we're not going to talk about the second half yet, but you knew it was going to have to break at some point. So we go into that halftime without scoring a goal with all the chances we had. That made me nervous and kind of frustrated with what was happening there. So yeah, your thoughts on the first half?
So first half, I thought if the game could have just ended there, I'd have been okay. Because I mean, I would not have been okay. I would have been like, we should have won that game. But
yeah,
I looking at the second half would have been like, let's just end the game at the lightning delay. That's good. Pat's opportunity very early on, great creation by Pat, kind of muscling off, fighting in the box, and then creating a shot in the box that realistically and should have gone in.
Yeah.
I don't know. And this isn't I could be a bash on Pat or anything like that. And we'll talk about that transition into the second half. But Pat definitely seems like he desperately needs a goal. Like he is very animated when he's not getting the shot, and he hit the post and he just stood there. And what was weird though, is he stood there frustrated. The ball bounced right back to Abada, and we had another opportunity to kind of get another shot on goal. And like, you got to keep fighting or doing something. You just can't just be like, shit, and just stand there. Right. So, but I feel like he just emotionally needs one, because he's probably feeling the pressure a little bit. Enzo got sold. Pat is the guy. And frankly, he is our only 9 on the roster outside of, if you want to count Scott Arfield, but Scott Arfield's not a 9. Like he's playing a false 9 for us or whatever it is you want to look at. But, so it's disappointing from that. But I mean, that creation, that I think it was a pass from Ashley Westwood or somebody was there that created that long ball to him that helped create that ability to get there. And it was a great creation by Pat. So like credit to him for creating that chance. It just didn't finish like we wanted to. And then the Abada opportunity there, great. Again, long ball again, going in. And I think that was if you look at and I'm no soccer manager or anything like that, but one thing that I noticed in this game that we did a little bit differently was we definitely wanted New York to kind of press us on the backside and kind of stretch them out. So then that way we were hoping that we could either catch them on a transition or catch them stretched thin and be able to take advantage of that. There was times where it was just Privet and Malanda passing the ball back and forth in the 30 yards, on our side of the field. Meanwhile, Pedro and Burns pushed up and everyone's pushed up in the field. So they're basically trying to stretch Red Bull up with that press. And then we'll talk about that transition in the second half, but it worked that first half. Like it was helping create chances, create opportunities. We were able to attack. Even the announcers were saying like Charlotte's definitely outplaying, and New York seems like they were caught off guard for having such a long break since they played that NYCFC game beforehand. And I was really happy that first half. I was also happy with the way the defense kind of stood the ground. Privet got a yellow card for I guess quote unquote pushing the Red Bull guy down after he basically bulldozed into Kalina. But I did have to laugh because I think I was reading Slack and people were like, Privet doesn't seem like the kind of guy that you would just look at and be like, yeah, man, that guy's he's gonna rough you up a little bit. But then he showed fire back there, and he's super confident. I'm glad that he's playing so well. Molanda's been playing very well back there, and Kalina made some good saves and some good plays. Kudos to him too, because his confidence as a keeper playing out of the backfield and coming off his line is much, much better this year than it was the past 2 years. Like 2 years ago, like playing passes to him, I'm like, that's a dead ball. Like we're not going to get anything out of it. It's going to go right out of bounds, or he's going to fumble it and create a crazy goal that they're going to score on us because we transition the ball poorly. But first half, I felt pretty well with from that point of view. I wish we finished those chances. We could have been up, I think, 2-0 at halftime, which would have been really nice. And I think it would have, shut Red Bulls down at that point, because going into halftime, 2-0 up potentially would have been a unfortunate situation for them, especially with the lightning delay that they had.
Yeah, definitely. So the rain delay. So we were talking about this off mic. Both of us had to kind of start this game late, which I think ended up being a blessing for us, because we didn't have to sit through the hour-long rain delay live. So by the time I actually started watching the match from the beginning, not knowing what was happening live, because I avoided on my phone and anything else to avoid spoilers, I guess by the time I started watching it, they were getting ready to actually start the second half at like 9:30 or whatever it was at night.
Crazy.
So it was nice to be able to fast forward through the hour-long rain delay. But yeah, I mean, it was just big old storm came through, clearly dumped a ton of rain right at the end of the first half and into halftime, caused it was roughly an hour, right? An hour long storm delay.
Yeah. And I I think even Dean said after the press conference, like, rain delays aren't a thing in England. He's used to playing in the rain, but lightning delays, he's like, this is the first time I've ever had a game get delayed due to lightning, because I guess they don't, which is kind of crazy to think that that's not happening in England often, but I guess it doesn't.
I guess thunder. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to become a weatherman here. I'm not going to. Somebody who's like a real weather nerd will start blowing us up about how I'm wrong about weather. So I'm not even going to go there. But yeah, I mean, I think that is probably one of those interesting things. Not to go into much of a tangent, but like being a international player or an international manager, there's a lot of weird things about MLS you have to get used to. I mean, there's the roster rules. There's just the sheer size of the country, and so travel is insane. Compared to that. And then like apparently weather delays aren't as common of a thing in other places, so it's a whole nother situation you got to get used to. And if you haven't done that, like knowing how to kind of keep your team ready to go, making sure they're able to warm back up properly. I mean, obviously the staff knows what they're doing, so I'm not worried about them with that, but it's like a whole thing you have to prepare for, of like, okay, usually we sit down for 15 minutes. We're sitting down for an hour, and then we got to come out and play the second half of a match. So
Yeah.
not something that you necessarily practice a ton, but yeah, how did you feel like Charlotte came out that second half after that long delay? We get back going. The rain's still pouring down. How do you feel like Charlotte came out? Like, this is a very obvious answer.
I mean, how I feared. I had this gut feeling that I was like, we're going to come out in the same style of play with no adjustments, and it's going to be just raining cats and dogs. Which, by the way, I want to come back to the dog night. By the way, we'll talk about that at the end of the game, at the end of the thing. But it went how I feared. Like we got outplayed that second half. New York. I mean, anytime there's a weather delay, bad weather, the home team's going to have some kind of advantage. I remember just talking. This was very early on with Charlotte FC folks when they were first becoming the team, and they were like, "Yeah, we're going to have this amazing locker room for our players and our coach, our staffs, and Bank of America Stadium, and then we're going to make the away team go like opposite side of the stadium into a smaller locker room, and it's not anything as nice as what we do, right?" So I can totally see Red Bull doing the exact same thing, but having it even older and worse off of a locker room. So now I'm picturing like a high school locker room that Abada's trying to warm up in for an hour, trying to like give himself space while everyone's soaking wet, whatever. But it didn't go how I wanted to. I mean, New York definitely took advantage of it with their press that they were doing in that first half. Started to really affect us because one, we can't play with the ball as confident with it being wet. You can't play on the backfield as much and as easily. And then with them pressing as much, it just created unforced errors and things that should not have happened, and fouls and frustration and whatever happened. You know what I mean? So unfortunately, it did not go how I'm sure Dean wanted it to, or even the players wanted it to do in the second half.
Yeah, I mean, it was like a totally different match again from the energy levels and the way teams looked. We talked about how good Charlotte looked in that first half. I mean, it was just total opposite. New York came out ready to go, and we looked like we were still trying to warm up and just flat and just not. I had a bad feeling as soon as, I mean, I already was a little worried when we didn't take our chances in the first half, like I mentioned earlier, but when I saw the way we came out in the second half, I was like, oof, this could get scary. So, and it definitely did.
Well, they also only had like a 5-minute warm up between basically the delay into the kickoff of the second half. And I don't know if you remember, like, just that footage of that second half. It was pouring rain.
It was pouring.
So imagine coming in from a dry locker room out into the field. You have 5 minutes to warm up, and it's like, all right, guys, here you go. Toot. And all of a sudden, it's just pouring rain, and you're just like, what the hell am I doing here?
Yeah.
Especially going back to, we have a lot of international guys, and are they used to having an hour delay because of lightning? Who knows? I mean, they're professionals. It is what it is, but it's something that you have to kind of think.
Yeah, you don't want to make excuses, but it definitely makes a difference. And being the away team, you might not have access to as many of your resources, of what you have in the locker room, like you mentioned. So
no ShamWow towels to help dry off anything like that.
Gosh, ShamWow, that was a good throwback reference. Haven't thought of that in a long time. Thank you. So we're gonna get to. Do we talk about their goals first or our mistakes in front of goal first? What do we do first?
Let's do their goals first, because that was because that's what led into a lot of the I guess unforced errors and forcing and trying to create when you
So the first goal, it was not until the 74th minute. You knew it, but it felt like it was coming for many minutes before that. Forsberg gets a free kick. It was like right outside of the box. I believe it was a Vargas foul that led to it. And as soon as I saw where that was positioned, I was like, this is not going to end well for us. It was a nice goal. It felt like the wall was weird and didn't do great, but I'm not an expert in these things, so someone else can tell me if I'm wrong in thinking that. But like, just felt like we kind of left a pretty obvious place to put the ball with the way we set up for that free kick.
Yeah.
But still a nice take by Forsberg. You give him that kind of opportunity from there, he's gonna make things like that. So yeah, that sets the tone for, what was to come, but they go up 1-0 in that 74th minute.
It was such a dumb foul by Vargas too, because it was right on the top of the box. Like, just don't stab like that. I don't understand what he was doing there from that perspective. And it was just like the Ashley Westwood free kick for us against Chicago. like almost the exact same spot, just flipped over to the other side for a little bit. It's like the dream spot for a free kick, right? And you had Tolkien lined up like he was gonna kick with his left foot. You had Forsberg out there playing it as if he was gonna kick with his right. So it's like, you had so many different opportunities, and like you said, the wall seemed weird, like it was kind of split, but then like we had like 7 people for a wall between the two of them, and I was just kind of weirdly set up. And I don't know, I'm not have a UEFA like license B kind of type thing over here, but it was just an unfortunate situation. And when they went up, I was like, shit. Well, there goes our clean sheet record. I felt bad for Kalina because like what was it, 523 minutes that
something
we
like
went
that.
not having a goal scored on us. Like that's a pretty big deal. Like there's been multiple teams that have 5 games in a row without a clean sheet, but I mean, you were one away from being in the top 4 of all time in MLS, and the last time that was I think 2000. It was like 6 games in a row. So it sucks that ended that way, but kudos to Kalina and the defense, at least up to this point, for keeping a clean sheet.
Yeah, let's not forget how impressive that run. Again, we're the last match of May was going to leave a bad taste in our mouth, but let's not forget all the other matches of May that were really, really good for this team. So, yeah, I mean, it stunk that it happened that way, but it did. But it felt like, I kind of alluded to this, but like, if memory serves, like it felt like Forsberg in that second half was on it. I mean, there were several chances before then that it felt like he was very, very close, if not for a deflection here or a save there, where he was getting in some really dangerous spots. Defenders were losing track of him. He was finding the right place, and so he got very dangerous in that second half. And finally, the free kicks where he got us. But then, just a couple minutes later, he gets us again with just uncharacteristic with the way this team's been playing this year. Uncharacteristically bad defensive blunder. I mean, it was a mess.
Just a missed header, like
like Malanda misses a header. I mean, you can maybe look at the weather because it's raining so hard, and maybe he doesn't have good foot. I don't know, but he just totally whiffs on a header. The defense isn't in position, and it becomes just an easy tap-in looking goal for Forsberg again in the 76th minute to go up 2-0. And at that point, I was like, well, I think this is over. I think even at one point the announcer said, like with the way we score goals, which is not often, like 2-0 is like, man, how are we gonna ever get this?
I mean, those damn Swedes, man. But so no, I definitely had that vibe, and I hate to say it, I think the team kind of had that vibe too. You can just felt the energy was off. They were playing away. It was wet. It was cold, probably, and then they're going up there and they're playing and they're down 2-0, and they, in the back of their head, they know they need to finish, and they've only scored 14 goals in how many games? Like we're 4 months into this now, and they've only scored 14 goals. Like that's 2-3 goals a month. So it's not great. So if they're down 2-0, they're probably in the back of their head like, this isn't great. Not great, Bob.
No. And then we'll just go ahead and get their last goal, the 83rd minute. Just a mess of a corner. Just absolute chaotic mess of a corner that somehow falls to Andres Reyes, and he just pops it in the corner. But I mean, it was just a little poke between. I can't remember whose legs it was. He got between somebody's legs, just poked it in with just the ball kind of sitting there between a bunch of people, and no one could find it except for him. So again, I mean, it felt like it was over before then. That really put the nail in the coffin. But yeah, just another kind of.
It seemed very much like a Sunday beer league type goal.
Yeah,
it was like a corner going in, kind of like a huddle ball, kind of scramble in the box. And all of a sudden, it was like a toe poke, and it's like, I got it in.
Yeah.
Luckily, we weren't the Orlando goal. I don't know if you saw that, Corey. What MLS had to delete the tweet, but it was like the most chaotic goal I've ever seen in MLS. But at least it wasn't that level bad, because that they actually had to delete the tweet because it made MLS look really, really bad.
Okay, I need to go watch this now because I have not seen this, so I'm gonna go find this.
I'll have to send it to you separately. But yeah, so it's unfortunate that happened. But let's talk a little bit about I guess when we're down 2-0, and while I had a vibe that we probably weren't going to come back from this, the team just was pressing so much. And I know we were talking a little bit about Patrick earlier needs a goal. There was opportunities in the second half as well where he probably could have scored a goal, or the team could have scored a goal, and we didn't capitalize, right? So do you remember when the first one was, or what happened with that one?
Yeah, I don't remember the order. I remember there's two
Yeah.
that stand out in my head. Was the Ibarra one was first, correct? Was that the
Yeah.
first one that we're talking
Yep.
about? Okay,
Yep.
so yeah, there were a couple of things where it's just you could tell Patrick was pressing and was really
Yep.
trying to get a goal. He really wanted it, and what was leading to is just really poor decisions in that final moment of having a really good opportunity. So the first one, you have Patrick breaking away down the left side. Um, you have Abada basically standing right in front of the goal by himself, onside, ready to go. And I'm not even sure exactly what Patrick was going for, but he did not. He could have just easily squared it across to Abada. You have an easy tap in goal there, and he's trying to do too much. He's trying to score. He's thinking too much about it, or he's not even looking up to see where his options are. He's so just hyper focused on I'm charging at goal and I'm going to try to score a goal. He's not aware of where the other options are around him.
Yep.
And you could tell Abada was obviously frustrated from that. I mean, he kept his cool with it, but I mean, he was set up right there. You just squared across to him, and then that should be a tap in.
Yep.
And so that was the first one that was tough to watch.
It's and again, I don't want Pat to lose that though, to a certain degree, because
Sure.
Pat is physical. He pushes. He creates chaos. He's like a baby Gazelle sometimes, where he's like he gets the ball caught up under his feet, and it sometimes works in his favor because like defenders like what the hell's going on? All of a sudden he comes out with the ball and creates chances. So I don't want him to lose that, and I want him to continue to do that. But you could definitely see the players around him are like, dude, like look up. This isn't Crown Legacy. You can't just push yourself on these 18, 19-year-old kids and score a goal. This is like these are professional players that's been doing it for 5-10 years. And it's unfortunate because, Pat's shown flashes for sure. And I don't want this to be a beat up Pat show because I think the future is very bright for him. So I just think this was just a really rough night. Hopefully he'll learn from it and be able to kind of continue on. But let's talk about that second scenario. That was just, I just want to pull whatever hair I have left, I guess, from my beard out from that second scenario. So I don't remember what minute it was, but I just remember it was a run on a Paul, and again, Pat, creating physicality and being able to out muscle a player and get out there and beats the keeper outside the box. But he's like kind of halfway to the corner a little bit. And he's looking up, and for whatever reason, like New York's goalie's like just trotting backwards, trying to get back into the goal and try to get into an angle. And instead of crossing it or looking back and seeing Vargas at the top of the box, just wide open, like his hands are in the air, like I'm right here, man. I got this. He just takes like a 5-degree angle shot, or maybe he was trying to cross it. I don't know. If it was a cross, it was not a good cross, but I don't know, man. It was just. You could sense the vibe on the attacking side was just not feeling it, but then they were just really disappointed in just the way that we finished that game after such a strong start in the first half.
Yeah, I mean, you could tell Vargas' frustration because you're right. Like, again, he's coming down his left side of the field, beats the keeper, and just amazing move to be able to stay up, stay on the ball, keep it moving forward. I mean, he's got this ability to be so strong on the ball and so fast, and to beat people when you don't expect him to. Like, he's got so much talent to do stuff like that. And then you want him to make the right decision to finish after that. And then sometimes it just doesn't happen. And like keeper's out of position. He has a terrible angle, but Vargas is on his side of the box, but at the top of it, wide open. No one's within 10 yards or more of him. And he's just like, give it to me, and I have a goal. Like this is just right here. And again, Patrick's just he's not looking around to see that. And then again, just another great opportunity to get back in this match and maybe be able to, pull a draw out of here late and get a little lucky. And we missed this opportunity. So again, like I also don't want this to become a situation where we're just ragging on Pat, but like that's where I see the need for an experienced, like high quality striker up there, because we need somebody who can make better decisions in those moments.
Yep.
Than what we currently have. And that's true about the cam position too. Like, if we want to get into like those two positions, we need someone who's, quality and has that experience to know what to do and to make the right decisions and have that eye for goal and know how to finish those opportunities, create those chances. And we just don't have that. Then you watch a player like Forsberg on the other side and what he's able to do, and you're like, oh, that's what that nice. Looks like.
Well, and I think it's, and I think it's unfortunate. And again, I don't want to go into make this into an hour talk of like roster build, but like we're playing 8s in the 10 role. Like,
yeah,
Brandt is historically an 8. Brecht is historically an 8, even though he has that 10 number right now. He's played that 8, frequently in the past. Yeah. Arfield, yeah, can play a 10 or an 8, that kind of thing too. Diani, like, I remember when we signed Diani, everyone was like, oh, that's a center backup that's going to come in here and play the Derek Jones type thing. And here he is playing the 6, pivot 6 and 8, right, with Ashley Westwood. And so,
right.
Our midfield is consisted of 6s and 8s right now. And we're trying to figure out who's going to be that 10 to come in and be able to help create for us. And I don't know if we have that on the roster to be there every game. We may have it to be able to super subs or like depending on the opponent, but we desperately need someone to be in that 10 role right now.
Yeah. And I do want to give, to kind of transition into the goal we did score. I do want to give Patrick credit because after those moments we're talking about, he had 2 moments toward the end of the match with Ben. Ben Bender comes in finally. I guess he hasn't played since like last September or something like that.
Yep.
So it was great to see him regardless of how you feel about Bender. I know there's polarizing feelings about him, but like, it was great to see him back on the field, getting to play some minutes. I love to see that. I mean, really happy to see him come on. And so there were 2 moments. There's one, I think right before the 90th minute, somewhere in there, where Patrick again makes another great run, is getting past the defenders, and sees Bender making a nice run into the box, feeds him a nice pass. It's saved, but it was one time where he was actually looking up, saw what was around him, saw who had a good opportunity, made a nice pass. The finish wasn't great, went right to the keeper, but I was like, okay, that's nice. And then he did get the assist on the stoppage time Bender goal. A slightly different situation with that one, where I think, if I remember correctly, like Patrick gets kind of deep in the box, turns around, looks back, and sees Bender running towards him, kind of lays it off for him. But again, like, his ability to not rag on him, I'm going to say some positive things. Like, in that goal for Bender, his ability, like, if you remember, there's a long ball in, he like heads it up and then is able to control it around the keeper and get it back to Bender. Like, he does some really special things like that. And so you saw the positive version of it at the end there when it was too late, frankly. But you started to see some of those where he's making good decisions, and that skill is allowing people to get in really good positions. And it led to that Bender goal, which Bender just always scores goals against Red Bulls. And I love this. It makes me happy. Makes me like him very much.
He's just chaos, man. He gets on the field, he's like a little squirrel. He's just going to create something, and he just takes shots, and they go in, especially against Red Bulls, which is always a good feeling. So
yeah. So again, good to see him score a goal. I mean, I was even saying watching the match, I was like, can we just score a goal? Like, I know at this point it doesn't matter, but can we just need to see the ball go in the net? Like, it's going to be meaningless garbage time goal, but like, someone please score a goal just so we can remember that we know how to do it. It's been a minute. So that was nice to see. I enjoyed seeing that from Ben. So all good there. But ultimately not enough.
And I'm really happy again that Ben came in and scored a goal. For one, like, he just came back from injury, played at Crown Legacy, got some minutes, came on the bench. Like I said earlier, I was kind of surprised to see that, and even see him come in and sub. But then again, like, I just want to, like, our fans, I don't want to sit here on this soapbox and do this, but like, we just need to pump the brakes a little bit on like the savior of the team sometimes, because we'll have a player have a good game or make a play or score a goal, and all of a sudden the next 7 days the Nikola game, like, Nikola played good, had great vision, great shots, showed flashes, but all of a sudden Nikola's going to be the savior. He's going to be our 10 for this. And we were talking offline. It's like, but you weren't the only one, Corey, that's made comments like that. I saw him all over social media, right? Bender scores a goal that night. oh, I know Ben Bender. Like he's been so great this entire time. I was just been waiting for it. And then like Tavares starts the beginning of the season, scores a goal or two, and oh, Tavares gonna come in and be our our left back or left wing. Who's Vargas? Like that kind of thing. It's just like we get into these things. We have to realize we have really young players coming in, and they're gonna show flashes like that.
Yep.
So support them. But then if they don't do well the next week or two, don't be like, oh, these guys are just shit. Like what are these guys doing? You know what I mean? So just like celebrate them, lift them up, but don't also put them on this pedestal where they're going to be like, oh, they're going to be our new DP. I remember the first year we were joking before the show, like Bender went on that like 2 or 3 game run where he scored a goal, and people were like, Bender's going to get called up to the national team. I'm like, oh, guys, like slow down for a second. Like Ben Bender's, slow down.
Yeah.
We're not there yet. So, and I think it's part of having a young fan base and a new team. It is what it is. But I mean, celebrate it. Don't get me wrong. I just want to make sure we're also not coming out here next week and being like, Dean, why aren't you starting Bender? Because Bender's coming back from injury. Let him come back into this naturally. So
I do think part of it, and I am guilty of this. We mentioned the Pekovic one is one where I didn't say
I do it quite too,
as like, but I optimistically I'm like, I think the way I would couch it is like it'd be great if he is the short-term answer at that role until we get the guy we need to go get. The guy Matt Swift apparently knows who it is and won't tell anybody. No, I'm just kidding. Well,
you hear that, Matt? You need to tell us.
But no, I think the reason we're so quick to glom onto somebody is because we've needed someone in that role since day one. And have not had it, and so like every time it's like, well, maybe it's Ben, maybe it's Brecht, maybe he's the guy that can come in there and play that role. Maybe it's Petkovic when he came in there and had a really nice game. Maybe it's Arfield, maybe not Arfield. Maybe it's Ben Bender again now that he's back in that role. Like it's like we kind of keep looking for like maybe it's this person, and I think ultimately like it needs to be like that needs to be a priority. It's like we need to get that person there because I think it will just absolutely change everything about the way this team plays if we can get that position right. And it's just been the position that they've never gotten right through the whole 3 years.
I was just thinking in my head, I'm like, please don't make me go through this list of players that we tried to fill at that 10 role. Like
I was trying to think of who else.
TT Ortiz and like I just
TT was the original. But
we threw Karol out there in that role for a while. Like Karol's going to be our cam, and it's just like
for a while before all the stuff happened. Like Nuno Santos is one I thought of could be nice in that role, and like I remember even saying that before like the second season, thinking like he'd be the breakout player that would come in and play that role, and that didn't quite work out.
Nope.
So it's good to keep a level head. It'd be great if Bender has some nice games in that role. I don't know if he's the future that we need there, but I'd love for him to play well and have some good moments there. So we'll see. But again, I think my ultimate kind of before we move into the ad break, because we need to do an ad break. But ultimately, like what I said earlier, this last match puts a bad taste in your mouth. And yes, the lack of goal scoring ability is a problem. I'm not trying to minimize those things. But again, if you told me at the beginning of May that we'd come out of this 6-match run with 3 wins, 2 draws, and a loss, I'd take it. I'd take it in a heartbeat. So things are good. We know what needs to be fixed. Hopefully the front office and staff and everyone also realize what needs to be fixed, and we'll have ideas, have plans, have consulted on Matt Swift on who should pick up, and we start to address some of those things and build. Just don't. Yeah, it's not panic time. And again, and I've said it from the beginning, I've had very low expectations for this team this season because it's a total. It doesn't. I feel like it's still a total rebuild. We got rid of all of our DPs. We got a new coach. We've let go of a ton of players over the past couple of years. Like this is a very new, young team that's building back up. And right now it's sitting in a decent spot in the East, not far out of, the top 4, honestly, and only has space to grow. So, hey.
And we're pacing higher points per game right now than we have the past 2 years previously.
Right.
with all these things that we are saying as opportunities, we're still outpacing the way that we played the past 2 years
right
at this point of the year. So life's good, man. Life's good.
And with that, let's take a quick break to hear about our sponsor. David, have you purchased the Father's Day gift yet?
I'm slacking, man. I haven't done it yet. I hope my dad's not listening to this yet. So
yeah. I was about to say, we'll have to see if he's listening. Look, it's I get it. You know, I understand. One thing I've realized is that when you are a father, sometimes you forget that the day is not just about you. You also have to give your father things. It's a very hard middle ground thing to be on. You're just both fathers handing things back to each other. It's really weird, but you don't want to forget about that. So Father's Day is coming up, but luckily for you, today's episode is brought to you by Manscaped, the leaders in below the waist grooming. So maybe your pops has had a bush since the 70s, and that's okay. Our friends at Manscaped have crafted the total package for his special day. Whether it's for the boys downstairs, his beard, or even the best pair of underwear out there, Manscaped has his bases covered. You can head over to manscaped.com and get 20% off plus free shipping with the code CORNDOG. Makes me laugh every time.
Every time. Makes me smile.
Corn
I can't believe they let us do that. So Corey, I know it may be a little awkward for some of the guys on this show, or even the ladies that want to get their dad a Father's Day present. And, you know, you may be thinking to yourself, well, how can I take my dad from a daddy to a zaddy? Well, that's where the friends from Manscaped can kind of come into play here. And you may not want to talk about the Manscaped world, but let me just tell you from firsthand experience, they have the all-in-one kit called the Beard Hedger. And I actually owned that before they were even partners on this show. It's Manscaped's most advanced beard trimmer. It comes with the shampoo, conditioner, oil, balm for his beard. It also comes with a brush and a comb and scissors. So that way, that daddy goes from the 1970s daddy to the zaddy in 2024. So I can tell you from firsthand experience, it's a great beard trimmer.
I have to admit that as someone who's had a beard since college, I know not enough about how to actually take care of my beard. So maybe I'm in need of getting this for Father's Day as well. So that seems like a lot of things that I don't currently have that are for my beard. So maybe I need to drop a little hint to the kids who are 6 and 3 to buy me the Beard Hedger Pro Kit. Yeah,
man, it's a great gift, and I'll just tell you from personal experience, as someone who's had a beard since high school, that it helps make it nice and trimmed and cleaned and easy. So be sure you check it out and use our code CORNDOG on manscaped.com.
All right, and we're back. There's some interesting news. I started at the top of the show. I said the decent, the bad, and the interesting were our 3 categories. I think it was those 3 words I used. So we've done the decent with the draw. We've done the bad with the loss. And the interesting is the news that came out about our good old friend, Karol Swiderski. So if you happen to have missed this at some point, I'll try to do a quick overview. David, obviously, correct me if I miss anything. And then obviously you're going to go a little bit deeper into it than I will. But essentially this week, a report came out that Hellas Verona, the Italian club that we loaned Swiderski to, would not trigger the option to buy Karol Swiderski. So at the time when the loan was reported, it was reported that there was a buy option. At least my memory of this is that there was a buy option that would be triggered automatically as long as Hellas Verona stayed in Serie A, which they did barely, but they stayed in. So I think everybody assumed, okay, cool, they're in. He will officially get purchased, and he's officially off the Charlotte books. But clearly that wasn't the case. I've seen some things about, people not, curious about how the reporting kind of got that wrong, but for whatever the reason, that wasn't the case. There's some misunderstanding there or some confusion about what the actual situation was. But now, technically he is a Charlotte player again. Like he can come back to the roster. Whether that'll happen, I don't know. We can kind of start speculating, but kind of an interesting and unexpected piece of news as far as some player news coming into this summer transfer window. So yeah, anything else you want to add there, David? Any kind of insight you have as far as what happened this week?
So I'll read what that's like the press releases that's come out a little bit, and then I will put a huge disclaimer out there and say reckless speculation when I start to recklessly speculate.
It's like a disclaimer about our entire show. It's just reckless speculation.
Especially since we don't have Swift here today. It sounds great. So, so a lot of the confusion, and I just have to, I'm going to bring up the facts first. So a lot of people reported on February when this news broke, Top Bin came out and put this out there. Karol from came out there and put a bunch of, even Tom Bogert put out there and I think quote tweeted Top Bin when it came out that, Karol Swiderski would be on loan to Verona. And if they stayed in Serie A, like one there, that they would actually trigger a mandatory buy essentially. Right. So Karol Swiderski would stay there. We would sell him. It was a great move. I remember when the loan news broke, everyone's like, oh my God, why would we do this? What are we doing? Why would we send him off and not, get anything returned? Blah, 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 blah. But then when the news broke that there was the quote unquote mandatory option to buy, everyone's like, oh, that's great. So if they stay promoted, helps them out. We free up a DP spot and we sell the player. Great. But then what's come out is that earlier this week, Verona came out and basically said, Verona didn't officially come out and say, but there was reports out there from an Italian news agency that basically Verona is not going to trigger the option to buy. Now, it could be that they're using it as a negotiation tactic. They could be using it to try to get the offer point down because, Karol didn't play every minute over there. He didn't start every game. I think he only scored between 1 or 2 goals, maybe 3 goals max. I can't remember, to be honest with you, while he was over there. So it wasn't like it was like this world beating star over there that just was, blooming for Verona, right? But decided to not trigger the option to buy. And now all the news agencies here in Charlotte and elsewhere are kind of looking with egg on their face a little bit like, hey, we reported that this was a mandatory trigger to buy if they stayed and promoted, that they weren't relegated, right? And, kudos to Top Bin and some other folks out there that said hey, this is what happened. We own this. For whatever reason, our reporting was wrong. Corey, you used to work in the news. I don't know how things like this happen. Maybe you can give that insight there. But one thing that was interesting, though, is that the reports from Karol and all the other folks out there were saying and it's not just these, multiple people said this, but that it was a mandatory option to buy. But when you go up to Charlotte FC's transaction on their website, the announcement, it says, Charlotte FC forward Karol Swiderski joins Verona on loan. And it gives them quote from Zoran, gives them the option to have, roster building mechanisms, blah, blah, blah. But at the very, very end, it says transaction. Charlotte FC forward Karol Swiderski joins Verona on a loan until June 30th, 2024, with an option to buy. There's no mandatory option to buy. It just says with an option to buy. And I know I don't want to speak for Swift. I'm sure he'll be able to come on the show one day and kind of share this. But, you never know what negotiations are happening behind closed doors up to the last minute things are signed. So it could have been a mandatory option to buy originally. Right. And then the last second, they're like, nah, we're going to balk. We're not going to do this. And Charlotte goes, okay, well, we'll just keep it as an option then at least. Or it could be triggers to be met before it becomes a mandatory, or it's just an option. Who knows, right? We're not in those rooms. We're not Zoran. We're not Karol, whoever is out there, right? So that's where I think a lot of folks got misled, or they feel like they were misled from a reporting perspective. But I just have to say, and this is on a personal note, the fans on Twitter and Facebook with the report that he could potentially come back because of this is just I don't understand it. They're taking it to heart that, oh, Karol Swiderski doesn't want to be in Charlotte. And, he basically said, kick rock Charlotte, and I'm going to Europe and screw you guys. And I'm never coming back. I don't think he's ever came out and said that. Sure, he wants to come out and go to Europe. He's been very forthcoming to that. And I think 90% of designated players in MLS would openly say, MLS is a stepping stone. I'm trying to get to Europe or somewhere else, right? There's unless your name's Walker Zimmerman, there's really not like career DPs in MLS, right? Like or heel, like there's a few, but there's not like that many. Or if you're buying these younger guys, so I'll use like Abada for example. Abada's not going to be in Charlotte for 10 years.
No.
He's young. He plays for his national team. He was playing in Scottish football Premier League. I mean, like he was already somewhat there. He wants to continue to grow and continue to play. If Manchester City came knocking for Abada would be like, yeah, hell yeah, see you guys later. I'm gonna go play for Man City, right? But it's not a slight to Charlotte. It's not a slight to the fans. It's just the way soccer works. And I think sometimes we may have our blinders on where they view this as like the Carolina Panthers and NFL free agency. And they're looking at this where a player's contract ends and they're like, so I'll use like Musa Muhammad or Julius Peppers. When their contract's ended, they're like, all right, cool. We're going to go explore free agency. And a lot of fans took that to heart because like, man, you played here 5-6 years. We drafted you. You're from here, blah, blah, blah. And then they go and sign for the Chicago Bears or Green Bay Packers or whoever, right? And then they're like, okay, I take that personally because we're not good enough for you. You have to go to the big city and that kind of stuff. Soccer and MLS is different. We have to know our place in MLS. We are not the end-all be-all league for a lot of designated players, especially as the league continues to grow and we start to source younger, like quality players that are wanting to continue to grow. Like not every player is gonna be a Messi where they're towards the tail end of their career coming in, or a Beckham or a Zlatan, etc. Right? We're trying to get younger players. Well, that means that they're going to try to get to another league and continue to grow and get paid more money. I think it's a normal feeling. So I just don't understand the hate Karol's getting online right now for potentially coming back. It's not like he didn't terminate the loan. Like I don't understand.
Yes, there are a few interesting things I'll try to touch on there that came up from what you were saying. My guess as far as what happened with the misunderstanding, and this is completely uninformed, like no insider knowledge. Sure. My guess is that with that many people saying the same thing about that there being that mandatory piece, is that they all were using the same source, and that source was telling them that. And to your point, it was either they misunderstood or it changed and they weren't aware of it or didn't tell or whatever. So like that's my guess, is that when something is that consistently spread, that it came from the same person. And that person just for whatever reason, didn't have it right ultimately. Not necessarily for nefarious reasons, just like a miscommunication between them and who they were talking to, a misunderstanding of what was going on, whatever it is. The second part of that I thought was interesting. You were talking about how they decided not to, pick up the option to buy, but it was interesting. I thought was part of the report was that, they still really like him. Like it's not, he didn't have some amazing season, but basically the part of the report was like, they still really like him. They might want to see him come back, but they weren't willing to pay the price tag that was on it. So yeah, you could see this as a negotiation tactic. So this is not to say that he won't ultimately still end up back at Hellas Verona, but not in the way that they were going to use the buyout clause. And then the last piece of it is kind of to talk about what you're saying with the Karol and Charlotte thing is like he clearly wants to go play in Europe. Like he's from Europe and wants to probably be closer to home and make it easier to get back to home when he wants to. But also that's where the top leagues are, and that's how it is, and that's fine. So he should have that goal and should want to get there. But I would also say that on the off chance that the opportunity really did come for him to come back to Charlotte, and I don't know if I feel like that's actually going to happen in any real way, but like it's a very different situation than when he left.
Yes, very
there
much.
Because Karol was clearly frustrated. It had nothing to do with fans or Charlotte as a city or anything like that. I think it had to do with the way things were going in the locker room, his role on the team with Enzo also being on the team, probably the coaching. And all those things have changed. Charlotte's in a good place. There's no Enzo Capetti. They have a new, very capable coach. I don't know. Like it's different. So like that's why I wouldn't say, like he said he would never come. It's like not like he burned all the bridges and said he'd never come back to this place. I think he wants to be in Europe. I think ultimately that's where he ends up after all this anyway. But I mean, I don't think it's crazy if something worked out and things fell through with Europe that he would say, you know what, the situation in Charlotte's a lot different than when I left it. I could make a run at this for a year and see them what kind of shakes out. I don't know. I don't think that'll happen, but it's just
Sure.
the feeling that he probably had when he left is very different than when he looks at what the team is right now. You know, the following season.
I mean, before I get to the reckless speculation part here, we need goal scoring so badly.
Yeah.
So even if he would come back, we're talking about our leading all-time scorer who has, I think, 27 goals for the club. And like, why would we not want that back? We very clearly need, like, we were, I think, second worst or the worst scoring team in MLS right now. So why wouldn't you want someone who at least has proven that he can score nearly 10 goals a year in this league? And one of those years was basically playing out of position with Christian Latanzio and Enzo Capetti. Yeah. So like, why not?
Yeah. So, if Karol realistically, and I don't know if he does, I really don't. I mean, I don't know him. I don't know. You know, I don't talk to Karol, but like, if there's any chance that he does actually want to come back here, or like even an inkling at it, yeah. If I'm the front office, I'm like, yeah, we got a spot for you, man. Like, we'll take you. But again, like, you also don't want to force it. If he really wants to be in Europe, if he's really happier there, then the team clearly has shown that they're going to be like, we'll put you where you want to be. We're gonna do that.
That's important for signing players too, because if they want to go somewhere, you got to be able to show these players as you're trying to court them and sign them that you're like, hey, we will help you get where you want to go, and we're not going to hold you back, right? Like, I'm sure Molanda is going to have that situation come up very soon. Like, we do not want to be known as the team that stifles a 22-year-old center back from going to Europe eventually and being like, nah, you're good, man. We're going to keep you from MLS for like 3 more years because that's what your contract said. Like, that's not what's going to happen. So
the whole thing is just kind of interesting. Again, my gut says it's not going to shake out any differently than it originally was. He's still going to end up in some European league. But I don't know. It just wasn't what I was expecting to see in the news this week, and kind of opened up some possibilities. Like, I mean, do we see him back in Charlotte? I wouldn't be mad about it. So, we'll see.
And I'll just say this: I'm not mad at anyone at the front office or Karol in this situation.
No,
the front office did make moves to upgrade our roster, which is what we were all kicking and screaming to do back in January anyways. And then on top of that, they're helping a player get development, go where he wants to go, etc. And at the same time, we've also gotten better since they've been gone. So if they come back, God forbid, hey, we got a better player to kind of help upgrade the roster of a better team. Or we sell them or send them on loan and we buy another designated player in the summertime. So I'm not mad at all. I'm actually, when the news broke, everyone was kind of like throwing a fit. I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. Like, sounds great to me. Let's bring back the King Karol chant. That's great. Let's do it. So, So, but yeah, man, let's stop talking about the craziness of MLS rules and let's get ready for Atlanta week a little bit, man.
Let's do it. I do have really quick aside, and it's because someone was asking me about Peppus and the post and all that we do, and they're like, why does that happen? And I had to start with like, remember when we had Polish players?
There you go. Remember when we had like 3 all at the same time? Yeah.
We had 3. They're not here anymore, but we had 3, and it makes a whole lot more sense if you start with that knowledge. Anyway,
which by the way, like, and so told another sidebar on that, just like from a Poznan Peppus kind of moment here. I don't know if you noticed, like a week or 2 ago, Man City does the Poznan as well, and there was Liam from Oasis panned into the crowd, and everyone's got their backs jumping except for him. He's facing, just standing there like, what the hell's going on?
I did.
So now I'm wondering, like 3 years from now, if we don't have any Polish players, if we're going to have our own like Oasis lead singer in our supporter section going, what the hell are you guys doing? Like, what are you doing? So
it was just perfect that it was him. But yes, I did see that. It's amazing.
Just a miserable man sometimes.
Yeah, fits every stereotype I have of that band and him. Anyway, all right. Yes. Big rivalry weekend this weekend. We are heading down 85, going through that construction down in Greenville, I imagine. That's the never-ending construction down in Greenville. To see that city down in Georgia, Atlanta, playing Atlanta United on Sunday. Don't try to watch it on Saturday. It's not happening. It's on Sunday. at 4:45. I think is the start time I saw, which is a very
really
weirdly
weird.
specific time, which probably means they'll say it's going to start. Like MLS will say it's going to start at 4, and it'll kick off at 4:45.
Or it starts at 4:45 and kickoffs at 5 or something like that. Like just craziness. Yeah.
Either way, who knows? It'll be interesting. I mean, Atlanta's had a rough start to the season.
Yep.
Have not obviously been where they've wanted to be. But went down to enter Miami Wednesday night and came out with a 3-1 win. So they're going to be feeling good about life versus our being on the other side of a 3-1 match, feeling not good about life. We're not going to do a full preview, breakdown, anything like that. That's a Matt Swift special, and we're not going to do it without him here. But how you feel about things, and then talk a little bit about kind of the fan support heading down there, because I imagine this is all. I mean, I've been one time down to one of the matches down there. The first time we played down there, it's always a lot of fun bringing a bunch of boys and girls in blue down there to cheer. So what's the situation for Sunday?
So I actually feel pretty good going up against Atlanta, even Miami aside, because that was a Messi-less Miami. Like that was such a weird game. Because if you look at Atlanta's performance this year, I think they're like 12th right now.
I will say, I think Messi played in that match. I'll have to stop you. I do think Messi played. I was going back to look, but I thought, yeah, it looks like the lineup, if FootMob's not lying to me, they did have Messi and Suarez and Busquets, Dressel, Alba. Like they had the whole shebang.
Well, Messi just didn't feel like going Canada the week before, but that's okay. So, so either way, we beat Miami with Messi. It doesn't matter. So, but if you look at their form recently, and again, I'm not going to do a whole preview episode without Matt Swift. Atlanta's been bad. So, like before this win against Miami, excluding the U.S. Open Cup, they lost to L.A., tied Nashville, lost to Cincinnati, lost to D.C. United, lost to Minnesota, drew Chicago, lost to Cincinnati, drew Philadelphia, drew NYCFC. You have to go back to March 31st before last night for their first win. And that was against a red-carded Chicago Fire. And so, like, I'm feeling pretty good. I know there was even talks, like, and rumors on Twitter and Reddit, et cetera, that Atlanta's not happy with their coach, their DPs. They're talking about selling players, rebuilding, retooling, et cetera. Yeah. So I'm feeling good, but also in the back of my head, I'm like, oh shit, that means it's gonna be a trap game. Like we're going into this confident, and we're gonna go into Atlanta, and they're gonna be riding high, beating Miami 3-1, and be like, we're righting the ship. We've got confidence now. So I'm feeling good overall though for it. I hear, just like last year, I went last year, which was awesome. I wish the game was on a Saturday again versus a Sunday, because I probably would have gone. But there's a bus load of folks going down, and multiple buses of supporters from Charlotte. I think Atlanta learned their lesson last year, where they put us all in the, like, I don't know. I've only been to Mercedes-Benz once, and it wasn't the lower level, but it was the middle level, because they didn't open the upper deck, and they put us all together in the middle row, which is what usually happens. It's complete opposite side of the stand, supporter section. Yep. But we were loud, and we were right underneath their press box, right underneath Apple TV box. There was even times where we started singing, "Is This a Library?" because it was so quiet that we were louder than their stadium with away fans. Yeah. But I think they learned their lesson, because I don't think they're putting us in that middle section. They're putting us in the upper deck this time, because there was also some fan incidents with people claiming they were throwing stuff, vice versa, whatever. But when you score 4 goals in Atlanta, like, yeah, or 3 goals, 4 goals, whatever. Like, okay, whatever. But so there was a couple of buses worth of folks going down there this time again. Charlotte had that that perk for season ticket members, where you can have the crowns up and away kind of thing. So I think they're gonna have a decent crowd going down this year, even if it being on a Sunday. And hopefully we walk away with 3 points in a Mercedes-Benz again, because that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun. I didn't get to go last year. I went the first year to see the first goal, man. Goal. Yeah. I was determined, man. Like, going back to that, I went to I saw the first 5 matches. So I went to the away DC match, and then obviously the home match, and then the away Atlanta, and then obviously I had all the home matches after that. So I was bound to determine I was going to see the first goal, and it took longer than I wanted it to, but I got there. But no, it's always a fun trip. I mean, that to me is when done the right way, that's what sports are all about, is those rivalries
Yes.
and two teams that really want to beat each other, two fan bases that really want to beat each other, very close together, so it's easy to pack a whole bunch of fans at either spot. That's what makes it fun. So, and I figured that would be a very popular choice for the season ticket perk for people. So I'm glad we're sending a couple buses down there, and it'll be a good time. But it's interesting. The only thing I'll say, again, we're not doing a full preview, but I'm always interested, like, motivation with stuff like this. So, like, to compare it to other sports, because I tend to do this, but like, I'm a big big UNC fan, period. But talking about basketball specifically, before the Duke game, I am more nervous if Duke loses a silly game midweek before they play Carolina.
Sure.
So I'm like, they're going to be pissed. Yep. So, like, that's, versus like, we're feeling good about ourselves, and then you get knocked down. So honestly, what I hope, and the way I can look at the mentality sometimes, is like, hopefully, Dean and the coaching staff and the players are mad about what happened in New Jersey, and are frustrated, and that was not a good second half, and it's like, we're better than this, and they come out fired up, ready to go, hit the ground running on Sunday, and come out with some energy. Whereas, Atlanta put a lot of probably emotional energy into trying to beat Messi and all them down in Miami. So I don't know. I don't know if this is real, like, if it really matters, but these are the things I think about, and I hope it actually does impact the game from that, momentum, emotional standpoint. But I think it'll be a fun one. Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, so you're not superstitious, you're just a little stitious.
Just a little. I'm more than a little. It's coming out on the show that I'm way more than a little. I overthink these things that don't actually have anything to do with what happens on the field. So that's just what I do. It is what it is. But yeah, no, it'll be fun. I hope everybody going down there has a good time. I hope you took Monday off of work, because coming back on a Sunday night.
That's the main reason I didn't go. Like, they were talking about the bus, and it's like, all right, leaving Charlotte at like 10 a.m. or 9 a.m. I don't know, but they're leaving in the morning, driving 3 or 4 hours down, tailgating, going to the game, and then driving back to Charlotte, or and they're making a stop in Greenville for the folks in South Carolina that hit down there and join, etc.
Yeah.
So last year, it kind of sucked. I mean, it was fun, but it sucked because I remember I didn't get back home till like 3 a.m. because we got back to Greenville at like midnight, and then I drove from Greenville back down to Columbia.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way I'm doing that. I have to work the next day. Like, sorry guys.
I
love you, Dean, but I'm not doing that.
I do have the real quick story. Then we're going to get out of here because we've been going for a while. But I have to rag on our good friend Johnny Wakefield, original co-host of this podcast. We went to the Atlanta match together, the first one, where we rode together. We didn't ride the bus because I'm just wasn't in the mood. That sounds terrible, but just wasn't in a place where I wanted to ride the bus.
Very unique experience. You're good.
But anyway, so we just like drove a car down together. We were going to get there for the tailgate, though. We were there at the tailgate having a good time. So we were there early, but we just drove separately, so he could get out of there and get back, home. And we're driving down, and Johnny's like, you drive down, I'll drive back. That way we can divide it up. It's gonna be a really long day and a long night, but we can divide it up that way and make it work. And so we go to this match. We're just like jumping around, physically and emotionally exhausted, because you remember how that match ended. It was like we were so excited by that first goal, and then that stoppage time goal for Atlanta to draw. Garbage. It was just like, you're just flat. And so I'm just like, we're walking back to the car, and I'm like exhausted. It's been a long day, and we get back to the car, and Johnny goes, "So you're driving, right?" So I drove.
I could hear that in his voice.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Drove both ways, back and forth. So that was the last road trip Johnny and I ever put together.
Johnny, what are you doing?
Just having to give him a hard time.
What you're telling me is we need to plan another one of these and make Johnny drive us next time.
He's driving me to Nashville and back. How about that? We'll get him to do that.
That's a longer drive. Heck yeah, let's make him do that.
It's punishment. That's how this goes. So anyway, he won't listen to this, so he won't know I talked about him there. But you have to give him a hard time.
I need you guys to tag Johnny since he doesn't listen to his old show anymore, and just make sure he knows that. So.
Oh man. All right. Well, anything else from you before we head out of here?
No, we'll look forward to, hopefully we're doing Soccer and Coffee this Sunday, and join us there. Vaughn, Swift, if you're listening, Hopefully you are. Tell me how wrong I am, and we'll talk Sunday. So.
Sounds good. Well, everybody take it easy. We'll be back next week, hopefully talking about a awesome win down in Atlanta. But until then, we'll see y'all next time.